On this week's NFV SDN Reality Check, we speak with Guenther Ottendorfer, who's the CEO of Technology at Sprint, to get an update on the carrier's NFV, SDN, and 5G plans. I'm your host, Dan Meyer, Editor-in-Chief at RCR Wireless News. And this week we are pleased to be joined by Guenther Ottendorfer, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Technology at Sprint, to talk a bit about the carrier, who's been very busy over the past couple of months. So Guenther, thanks for joining us this week. Again, we definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, hi Dan. I'm very happy to be with you today. As you said, we have very busy days behind us, and so I'm very happy to talk with you about all the things we've done recently.
Very good. Very good. We're going to start off. I know to kind of kick the year off, you guys had some announcements, network related with HPUE and things like that. And then you went to Mobile World Congress and had some big announcements there. And then even coming out of that show, some more big announcements. So I guess maybe focused on the Mobile World Congress stuff. You know, as you look at everything you guys announced there with your partners and the demonstrations there, I guess for you, what were maybe some of the big things that really, I guess for Sprint are kind of the big announcements out of that show? I mean, obviously a lot of work with Nokia, a lot of work with Ericsson there. I guess for yourself, what are kind of the big news that came out of Mobile World Congress for you guys?
Yeah, so Mobile World Congress this year was for us, started with a highlight. So I arrived in Barcelona on Sunday at 10 o'clock, and I immediately went to the LG event. LG unveiled their new smartphone, the LG G6, and this is the first phone that will have HPUE. And I remember that we talked with you about HPUE, and that we expect this year major phones to have HPUE inside, and this is now the first that really has it. And so we were very excited about that. That was definitely our first highlight. HPUE, high performance user equipment, will significantly improve for our customers the usability of our 2.5. And so we are very excited about that development and to have now the first phone. So that was the first highlight. In the next days, with our partners, Nokia and Ericsson, we were very active. With Nokia, we did a massive MIMO demo. So we had a massive MIMO antenna with 128 antenna elements based on their, what they call AirScale massive MIMO platform. Mm-hmm. And we were showcasing there with 60 megahertz of band 41, 2.5 spectrum, download speeds, and we were having 8 connected UEs that all were going full speed there. So it was very impressive. And they also showed simulation results from what massive MIMO will mean for networks. And it will basically be for sectors a capacity improvement by a factor 5 to 10. Mm-hmm. So that was great. And on the next day, we were together with Ericsson based on their lean carrier concept, showing a Gigabit Lte TDD demo. And that involved 4x4 MIMO. Mm-hmm. It involved also 256 QAM. And all again, three channels of 20 megahertz of 2.5 spectrum. And so that was really good with a peak rate of more than 800 megabits per second, and very impressive demonstration we had there. So those three things were probably, from our perspective, the most important things at Mobile World Congress: HPUE, massive MIMO, and Gigabit Lte.
Interesting. Yeah, I know on the HPUE front, that does seem like something that, again, it's a handset-based solution, basically, correct? And that allows the device to basically almost not be turbocharged, but basically it allows it to really reach farther, it seems like, to the 2.5 coming into it, and expanding the reach of the 2.5 spectrum, basically, correct? Absolutely.
So what it does is by having TD-Lte is very power efficient in the uplink. Yeah. By using a little bit of more power there, you can increase the reach of the handset, which is normally the limiting factor, and that makes the 2.5 spectrum perform like 1.9.
Interesting, interesting. Now I know with the Nokia deployment too, now that 64 transmit receive demonstration there, so that was basically then it had 128 antennas basically on the base station. Is that kind of how that worked out? And then the device, was it just a standard device that it works with, or how does that part work out?
Yes, so it's basically a technology that is in the base station, a replacement of the traditional antenna. Traditionally, antennas have been either a blank sheet of metal, or you had like 2 or 4 antenna elements. massive MIMO is now massively increasing the number of antenna elements. And that works only in the high band because of the wavelength. The size of the antenna elements is still small, so you can combine a lot of them. If you go to lower frequencies, that becomes more difficult because the size of the antenna elements is making it physically impossible. And so, but it's a base station focused technology. The handset doesn't need to do anything. It's just increasing the sensitivity of the transmitters and receivers at the base station, and by that having the capacity effect.
Makes sense. And again, I think for that, it's interesting because, again, you guys, when you're used to the 2.5 spectrum, that does allow you to use those much smaller antennas. I know most people think about small antennas and they think of like millimeter wave or centimeter wave spectrum bands, but for you guys, you're able to use this in the 2.5 band, which is for you guys a big spectrum band. And so to be able to use that in a common spectrum band for you guys seems like a pretty good benefit to have the 2.5 spectrum.
Absolutely. So that is one of the advantages of high band spectrum, that you can use these advanced smart antenna technologies that are not possible in the lower bands. And that's absolutely what we want to do. That helps us to future-proof our network. We are already very good in handling customer demand because of the plenty of spectrum we have, but we will be very good in the future because we can surgically use those antennas where we have demand hotspots to give our customers great capacity and reliability of our network.
Interesting. And I know coming out of the event, you guys also were showing off, I think in New Orleans, some more of that technology as well in a venue there. I guess in terms of the timing of all of this, I mean, again, this is a lot of technology you guys have kind of announced over the past couple of months. I guess, do you guys have any sort of, I guess, timing in place in terms of the rollout of these technologies, or is it going to be kind of on a market-by-market basis, or what's your general view on how these things might actually be coming to market for consumers out there?
Well, it's very clear for us that the kind of timelines we're working with. HPUE will come with the phones. Okay. So it is a question of having the phones there with those new power amplifiers, with those new chipsets. The LG is the first, the others will now follow. So that will come with the phones. Gigabit Lte is something that we have been working on, kind of, because it consists out of 3-carrier aggregation, and we have now 3-carrier aggregation in more than 100 markets live available for our customers, and we will continue to roll it out. The other two cornerstones are 256 QAM, which is basically you need a capable device and you need a software upgrade on the base stations. And we will roll that out throughout the year. And we'll from time to time update you what we have achieved. But it's kind of, this is not a big bang approach. This will be a smooth process throughout the year where we will bring the necessary components into place and then switch it on.
Yeah, and it's good to see kind of that Gigabit Lte part of it as well, because I think those of us who've kind of followed the LTE transition for a long time now, I think the initial LTE specifications were for support for gigabit speeds. And now here we are, LTE is ready to really support those now with all these new advances coming out in terms of the QAM and the MIMO setup and the carrier aggregation too. So it does seem like the true potential of 4G is really coming to market now. And obviously we've got 5G coming too, but it seems like 4G has really hit that maturation point now where it's really kind of supporting what was thought it was going to support initially when it came out for standards-wise at least.
No, absolutely. And the thing that is enabling that is kind of the miniaturization, because you need very high computing power to do those things. So if you think about 256 QAM, the modulation scheme requires a lot of computing power into the chipset. Our partners in New Orleans were Qualcomm. Their latest chipset is capable of doing that. And the same is true for the device. The device needs to be capable to have 4 antennas inside. Motorola did that with the device we used in New Orleans. And those things, the computing power, the antennas, that is all pretty tricky technology that needed a while to become mature. But now we are there, and the Snapdragon 835 platform is capable of delivering that. And so we were very happy to showcase that with Qualcomm and Motorola. And it's certainly the way on the journey to 5G that LTE will develop over the next years.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess, and actually a nice segue too, because I was going to ask you, I guess, how does this all kind of lay the framework and the foundation for you guys as you move towards 5G? I know you guys have done some testing in the past. in terms of millimeter wave spectrum and different technologies as well. I guess, how do these new technology advances and announcements kind of set that stage for you guys as you move towards what will be a 5G future at some point here as well?
Well, we see as key ingredients of 5G is carrier aggregation, is high band spectrum, is massive MIMO. And so in our path, we are deploying this now. So we have 2-3 years before 5G comes to get operational experience with those technologies, and then be really ready and have a smooth transition to 5G. The other point I would make is, by making our network with the densification strategy we have ready for 5G already now, we have the structures in place, and later on it will be easy to have a good interworking between a very capable Gigabit Lte network with then islands of 5G. And that will be the way we introduce the mobile version of 5G when the time is there.
Makes sense. Because are there any sort of challenges still kind of in place to kind of, I guess, support this vision of 5G in the future? I mean, it does seem like, again, your technology-wise, you guys seem to have everything kind of planned out for that. I mean, are there issues perhaps with backhaul situations, fiber deployments, things like that that might slow the process a bit? Or are you guys pretty comfortable with the whole package being in place to kind of meet the challenges that are kind of coming up in the deployment timelines?
Well, I mean, like every big network, there's always challenges. If you have those massive structures, there's always things you have to work on, and the bottleneck shifts over time. So for 5G, the first bottleneck is standardization. This week is, this week is an important week because there's the 3GPP RAN plenary. They are defining the work items for 5G, and that will be the foundation how we work in standardization through 5G. There has been the decision and Sprint joint agreement for accelerated 5G. So that I think are important steps in mastering this first hurdle in the standardization process. In the structural process, I think with the densification, we create the right foundation for 5G. You will need fiber over time, but you won't need fiber in the beginning everywhere. And that's exactly our strategy. So we will have different methods of backhauling with high capacity microwave. We will have fiber, we will have Ethernet, and over time we will see where the customer demand really is, and we'll increase the other capacities. So that is our plan, a very flexible plan that allows us to adapt to the customer demand.
That makes sense. And like you mentioned too, I know with the 3GPP meeting going on right now as well, I know that's kind of gotten a little bit of attention. It does seem like that there is some push there for that accelerated plan for the 5G deployment. That sounds like that's kind of based on a fixed wireless type of deployment model there, not needing LTE in place, but just being able to kind of roll out the technology that way. Is that how you guys see probably the initial 5G deployments coming online, as being maybe these fixed wireless deployments? And then at some point after that, kind of rolling in, like you said earlier, the mobile aspect of 5G into the whole platform?
Well, certainly, I mean, if you look at it from a technology perspective, rolling out fixed wireless is much easier than having the full mobility components from day one. So naturally, that will be a path some carriers will go down, that have also the need for lowering their access cost, and they see this as an opportunity. So absolutely possible that this will happen. For full mobility, I think it's very important that we push that also forward, and there I see the way as a complementary service to very capable 4G LTE networks. And that's why we pushed Gigabit Lte. We believe that there's a lot of things we still can do in LTE, especially if you're spectrum rich like we are. We have today 3 carrier aggregation. In the future we will have 4 carrier aggregation and 5 carrier aggregation. So 5G for us, the opportunities of 5G will probably be less on the throughput side. It will be more low latency applications like tactile internet, like industry applications, will be around massive density of things like Internet of Things needs. So those things will come into play because throughput will probably be provided already in good quality by Gigabit Lte networks.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know I've talked to a lot of analysts kind of about that who are kind of watching the whole 3GPP process going on. And they do seem to kind of indicate that, with the way the LTE networks now are evolving, that base of support, whether it's speed and coverage, is actually pretty compelling and can really take care of most of, or a lot of, kind of the use cases that are being talked about in terms of 5G. So it seems like most of those initial ones can at least be taken care of in the release 15 or release 16 specifications. And then, obviously 5G will come along with that as well. But it seems like, what you guys are doing in terms of bolstering the current networks is a big step in that direction.
I agree, but there are things in the 5G spec, like the really low, ultra low latency, the ultra high density. Those are things where we will need 5G. Yeah. And so the question will be enabling that. Then I'm sure there will be use cases around those possibilities, and those use cases will grow. That's the way I see 5G developing.
Makes sense. I guess for you guys as a carrier, and this is maybe more on the marketing side of things, I mean, is there any challenge of making sure that these kind of announcements don't provide any sort of false sense of what networks might be doing early on? Because I know, like when the race first came out for like 4G, for instance, there's a lot of talk initially about what 4G could do, all these high speeds and things, and it took a while for it to really kind of meet those expectations. I guess as we move towards this 5G world, from the network side of things, I mean, are you guys at all concerned that the marketing guys might get a little out there in front of you and you have to kind of hold them back a little bit? Or are you guys be comfortable that the pace of everything will kind of be equal and everything will kind of come out as it needs to in terms of the marketing and the network side of things?
Well, if we look back in the history of introduction of new technology in mobile, we see different patterns. So the switch from 2G to 3G was kind of a disappointing one, because it was a little bit like you alluded to in your question. There was a high expectation generated that couldn't be met in the first place. If I look at this introduction from 3G to 4G, I think it was much more smooth. So the expectation was probably not that big, yeah. But what was delivered was feelably better. Okay. And I think if I look now 4G to 5G, we still have 2-3 years to shape expectation. And I think if we do a good job, it will be around things that can really be done, like ultra low latency, used for robots, used for specific remote applications, industrial applications. If I look at IoT, it will deliver the density. Those are the things where we should be realistic about. And I think I see it also more as an evolution than a revolution. So I think over the next 1-2 years, expectations will be probably pretty realistic for 5G. And that's why I think there's a good chance that the introduction will be quite a smooth process.
Got it. And then I think in terms of the 5G standards as well, there's been some talk about maybe a new air interface that might be needed at some point down the road too. I mean, do you guys see that as being essential for hitting those really big targets of 5G, or do you think things can be kind of done in the current, using the current air interface that's already kind of been deployed out there?
Well, the so-called NR, the new radio, will be a family of standards. And I think in standardization, that will be a big topic. What are the benefits of introducing more revolutionary new standards? And so that will be a kind of a balancing act that will happen over the next year. And I'm pretty positive that with the attitude of having a standards family, we will see the best of both worlds combined in the new 5G standard.
Makes sense. And maybe like the final topic to talk to you a little bit about is kind of the move towards software as well. I know we talked in the past, I think last year when we discussed this, that you guys are looking at doing a lot in terms of software control. I think for 5G, there's a lot of talk of using virtualized platforms, whether it's NFV based on SDN platforms, to kind of really help control a lot of the network functions that are out there. I guess, can you talk a little bit about how you guys view that evolution of software into the network, and maybe where you guys are in terms of adopting some of these platforms, both in the current network, but also as you guys look towards 5G, how you guys are kind of planning on bringing that stuff into the new network as well?
No, very good question. And I think the way, I see two major components in that way. The first one is as a telecom operator, we are a big organization. So one of the first things we have to take care about is the mindset of our people, the technology people that plan, operate those systems. And we had a big program last year that we called NFV Open Door, and we tried to get everyone on this NFV SDN journey. And I think we have been pretty successful. That is a very important component. The other important component is handling all this data traffic that is coming with 5G networks. You will need the capability to scale in, scale out, and have a flexible platform. And the way we will achieve that is by phasing in this new technology via cap and grow approach. So we will cap our investment in legacy hardware and will grow on the new platforms. And that will already happen in LTE and will then smoothly be used also for 5G. So that is our plan with regards to that. That gives us the ability to create the interfaces already now, to integrate virtualized platforms already now in our network, and with that have the foundation when 5G is there to use it, and then probably in the 5G world be 100% on those virtualized platforms.
So I guess to this point, do you think that those platforms that are kind of being developed when it comes to the SDN as a platform, the NFV and BNS on top of that, do those seem like they're mature enough at this point, or do you think there's still kind of some work needing to be done before they're commercial ready for a telecom network? I mean, I know I talked to a lot of vendors about this, and some of them seem to think that they're getting there, but there's always that carrier grade aspect of everything, which obviously operators need to be wary of. Are you guys confident that it's there yet, or do you think it still needs a little bit more time to kind of bake in the oven before it's ready to go?
No, I think the time to move is now. This year, 2017, we will do a lot, because this is not about a big bang. This is about introducing software, improving it release by release, getting the troubleshooting capabilities into place. And I think you have to start that, and then you improve the system as you go forward, and you add new functionality as you go forward. But definitely the time to start is now.
Makes sense. Well, again, I know you guys have had a pretty big start to the year already with all these technology announcements. Here we are in March already. You guys have already announced enough news for a whole year. I'm guessing maybe there'll be a bit of slowdown from you guys for a little bit just to kind of catch your breath. But I'm guessing there'll be more announcements as we go along throughout the year. But it sounds like a lot happening there at Sprint, and you guys are definitely staying busy in terms of the network side of things. That's for sure.
No, absolutely. So, you have heard me say that before. I think we had a very good start into this year. We have pushed a lot of big things, but there's a lot more to come. You ain't seen nothing yet. So we are looking forward to 2017.
I was waiting for that tagline there, so we got it in there. That's perfect. That's good to hear. But Guenther, we always appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Again, I know you guys are really busy there and all the travel and stuff too. So definitely appreciate the time and insight on the topic today, and hopefully we'll touch base again soon and catch up with you guys moving forward.
No, looking forward to that. Great pleasure talking to you, Dan. Have a great day, and we see each other soon with news.
That sounds great. Thank you. Well, thanks for watching this week's show, and make sure to check out our next NFV SDN Reality Check when we are scheduled to speak with Oracle on NFV news coming out of this year's Mobile World Congress event. Thanks for watching.
NFV SDN Reality Check with Dan Meyer is a production of RCR TV. To suggest show topics or to reach Dan, you can find him on email, dmeyer@rcrwireless.com, and on Twitter @Meyer_Dan. For more Dan, news on NFV SDN and everything wireless, find your way over to rcrwireless.com.